something here, man, because again, when I'm often asked, so what have you gained? What do you gain from taking psychedelics? And I say, to most humans, I give them the answer, like it's just allowed me to drop my load, man. You know,
Mhm.
most people that I'm gathering now, they're getting into it because they hear psychedelics help with anxiety, it helps with depression, and they want to become better versions of themselves, and they want to get better careers and stuff like that, and they're delving and jumping into these spaces. But I say when you really get into it, that's what I really appreciate about this technology. It's allowed me to dance with death. You know,
Yeah.
that's the journey. The real journey that I'm on. And I know I've heard you speak about it. It comes through you through the music as well. So can you share anything from that perspective of the death realms and how it's
Yes.
allowed you to deal with your relationship with death?
So, when I look outside and I see these squirrels doing death dives from a tree and landing on a power line and then running across the street and then running directly up with no thought of making a mistake, it's because animals do not fear death. They don't even have the function in their mind. And because of that, they're in a constant state of flow state. When in flow state for humans, generally it comes out of just practice, practice, practice. I'm into watching parkour. I don't practice it myself, but parkour and free running. And these people are able to do things that the movies can't even show. Like they're jumping, 20-foot gaps from building to building and landing with precision on the edge of the building. And it's because they don't have the fear of death. Losing the fear of death is the secret to life. Is embracing, loving death, anticipate it, because death is bliss. Death is bliss, and life is tension and rigidity. Life is pain, right? Death is bliss. Everything that we explain as feeling good is you getting a little closer to the gate of death, and that is an orgasm, is a mini death. Your body is exhausting all of its, you know, energy, all of its central energy to create a seed of you, and so you're feeling the pleasure because your body has to die for a second to give you that experience. Sleeping, that experience, the comfort of sleeping, um, even the awkwardness of tickling or any kind of pleasure pales in comparison to death. Death is, and when you do psychedelics, you start to lose the fear of death because you realize how simple it is. Like you don't regret it because you realize it's almost like, oh, like you're more familiar with that realm than this realm. So death being the eternal womb, when you're born, you're crying because now you have this strange experience. All your senses are buzzing out. You feel breeze and you hear all of this violence. So you have to learn how to walk, and you have to learn how to talk, and you have to learn how to live. You don't have to learn how to die. That is the foundational point. It is the oceans. It is the oceans of life, and it's also where all the access to all the genius is. So when you say dancing with death, it is you losing the fear of it, being able to look at it in the eye, and from that point, it does this weird thing where once you stop fearing it, you die less. You know what I mean? It's like you almost can't die once you lose fear of it. It's like, when church they tell you to fear God. What does that mean? So to me, death is, once you can open the doorway, that death is the door. It is as easy as flipping a channel on a television. That's how easy, seamless, and painless the transition from living this life that you thought was this, oh my God, I had a family I loved, everything I built, my wealth, my this, that, and the other, I die, I lose it. When you die, it's as easy as flipping a fucking channel. And it's because life is, you realize that, life is this multiplied looping thing that never ends. There is no time without man. There is no observable reality without man. And the only describable universe will require you to have sensory. You can't talk about a heaven or hell being anything without eyes and ears or some kind of way to experience it. We are obsessed with humanoid and in this realm. Like we can't explain anything that's not like this. So you realize, oh, okay, I'm just gonna loop back. More than likely, I'm gonna loop back as myself. More than likely, you're gonna keep looping back as yourself until you hyper potentialize every experience you could have had as self, and then you'll come back as you, and then you, and then you, and then you, and then everybody in time. And that's how God works. It just, he keeps replicating himself to have every point of possible experience.
Yeah, man. And as you're sharing that, a couple of movies come to mind. One of them, Big Fish, with Ewan McGregor. Now, if you've seen that one,
yes.
He finds out how he dies at the beginning, and he just lives life because he's liberated and he don't fear death anymore because he knows how he's going to die. So anytime he's in situations that are challenging, he's like, "This isn't how I die."
Exactly.
Yeah, man. And then the classic one as well, Groundhog Day. With Bill Murray. Yeah, man. And just every time he comes back around, he's like, "Shit, I've got this cycle, this loop that I'm in," and he perfects it or masters the loop so that he can move further down into the journey. And, there's even that one scene when he's sitting there in the cafe with the woman and he's like, "I'm God." He goes in, but it's having that dance, man, and not being, resistant to it and, surrendering, as, some of the key buzzwords are suggested by, people within the circuit. But yeah, man, I can see how and where, you definitely resonate and come from the same perspective as myself, in the sense of, the more I delved into that subject, that field, just as a researcher, like, what is it, and why is it that it's such a taboo? And why is it that, in fact, the religions talk about it, everything's dealing with it, but we don't want to deal with it. We don't really want to address it. And I feel that, like you said, the more we actually do, we get closer to it. And then you realize that it's actually true liberation. It's the true liberation.
It's true liberation, and it's being exploited. Death is being exploited, and it's purposely being tainted and built up to be this monster so people can't use its power. And see, once you realize what death is, then you realize that the only thing anybody can ever threaten you with is death, which is an inevitability anyway. So the worst thing is a slave that doesn't fear death, because what are you going to threaten him with? So you have to keep this elephant in the room in order to have any order. And then you say that death is God, and you have to fear it and all glorify and respect it. But it is this satellite figure that you can't ever even talk about. If you bring up death at a dinner, man, like, good luck. But to me, it's death. Death is I fucking lost myself. I'm not even gonna lie, dude.
It's cool, but death is a cool thing.
What were you saying before that?
Yeah, just the fact that it's so it's such a taboo subject, but it's at the forefront of everything, like whether it's the religious perspective, it's like it's what we're all talking about, but it's like we don't want to talk. It's a subject that we don't want to talk about, that it's there to be spoken about, and the more we speak about it, I feel we get closer to true liberation, because then you potentially experience it.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk on, because I believe that death should be a ritual, and it should be, if we mastered it, then suicide would be now, and I say this with respect to everybody watching. It would be the grand drug experience, and it would be the ritualistic way of having a control over death, right? So imagine human beings mastering the living experience, and then understanding death to a point to where you use that as a point to transition under your own power, because you understand what's happening. So you live, you fulfill your life here, and then us humans, we have this ritualistic experience to where we present a root from God that transitions you there. But we do it with the knowledge of it, so we'll be able to prepare the person, the body. We will be able to maybe mix it with some kind of concoction of DMT or mushrooms, or put them, and then do a chant or some kind of om, and then use all of our conscious power to transition this person that's ready to go straight there. You know what I mean? Rather than us letting it be this surprise, oh, he's on life support, oh, you know, you're fucking it up. You're fucking up, you're messing up the death. Like, that's supposed to be the best DMT trip that a person could have. And people are leaving it up to chance. You know what I mean? Like, we should know, like, okay, yeah, like, okay, when I turn this age, or like, yo, I feel like my body is ready to go. We should know when it's time. You know, there are people that do that. I forgot what the Agori people, people.
They in India.
In India.
Yeah, man, yeah, man.
They're able to hit a mental kill switch. So they could sit in the same spot and then kill themselves with meditation, bro.
Yeah, no, I feel you, bro. You know, I talk about this all the time. I've got another talk that I go into, psychedelics, ego, death, and the afterlife, and looking at, you know, how the ancient Kemites and others, you know, practice dying, you know, preparing for death, dying before you die. It's like no different from having a driving test or an exam. You don't wait to the day when you got the driving test to start preparing to drive the car. You know, you got to be prepared in advance. So this, they would always say the Kemites in these cultures, you know, they're fascinated with death, and these are death cults. And there's in fact a book, I can't remember the author off the top of my head, but the book title is something called like Food from the
Fruit of the Gods?
Gods. Yeah.
Fruit of the Gods,
No, not Food of the Gods, not Food of the Gods. No, it's Food from the Bodies of Gods. Something along those lines there. But it's going into these cults, ancient traditions, you know, that you can find in on the motherland as well as in, you know, the Americas, that they, exactly what you're saying, bro. They would actually, you know, when the ancestors would make the transition, there's a ritual or rites that go along with that. Then they would inoculate the body with spawn or spores of mushrooms in particular, allow the mushrooms to colonize the human body. They would fruit from the body. Then the family would eat the mushrooms that have grown from the ancestors' body and all of that stuff there, you know, and then commune with the ancestors and then get, you know, like, and that's the kind of shit I'm into, you know.
That's so crazy because I've conceptualized that before knowing that somebody wrote a book about that. And, you know, I have rap lines about me growing mushrooms from my own defecation. Right. Like eat nothing but shrooms for like a month, and then shit shrooms, and then grow shrooms on those to make like some kind of super shit human shroom. But I've also conceptualized. I remember there was a guy who studies mycelium, and he was talking about making caskets that have the mycelium in it. So and then you could plant trees, and it like makes the soil fruitful for your whole family. But to me, yeah, like that's the secret. That is by far what better way to communicate with your dead relative than to eat a shroom from their body, like with their DNA. And we know that shrooms have a symbiosis with human DNA for some strange alien reason. You know, sure, and it's
so yeah, I feel like the priesthood is back. You know, you're conceptualizing these ideas not for no reason, just so we can manifest this in a reality, whether it's here now or later. And I feel say that, yeah, it's, you know, it's just all coming back home. And think that ancient Kemites, you know, you go to, like you say, you can go to ancient India, and, you know, and it's still practiced to this day, you know, in certain places and spaces. And I guess it's just where we are in the world, as I refer to them, the landlords who have governed the region that we're in, and their fear of death and their fear of things, that they, you know, passed that on to us. But, you know, back home, wherever home was, we would dance with death. You know, you go to Mexico, they got the Day of the Dead celebrations. You got Haiti, they've got, you know, Baron Samedi. That's, you know, I'm affiliate with that spirit and energy there. And they got the, you know, this, you know, the most important celebrations are dealing with that. It's not Christmas and Easter and the things that we think they are. But then when we get into it, that's exactly what those celebrations are.
Yeah, those are exactly. It's the only thing. I mean, look at winter. Winter is God celebrating death. It is showing that the trees which forge the leaves believe that even after they die, their seed will respawn and respring, you know. And then when they're autumn, when they fall, it's almost as if they win. You know what I mean? It is only once they fall they win, because then they have the opportunity to spring back, which is the most beautiful part. Is to die, so you have the chance to maybe have this experience again. The problem is, you know, a lot of us allow these outside forces to spoil it. Like they really fucking tainted Earth as far as what's livable within our human minds and our paradigm. Of course, like when you go into an airplane, you see it's still mostly trees. It's still mostly trees. It's still mostly heaven. It's still mostly the Garden of Eden. They be lying when they're talking about pollution and us ripping up the ozone layer and global warming and us. That's lies. How dare we think that we can destroy Mother Earth, right? How dare we think if we let off all the weapons we had on Earth at the same time, Earth would laugh at us because our conception of time is nothing. Even if we went into a nuclear holocaust for 100 years, 1,000 years, that's nothing in Earth time. That's a band-aid. That's a band-aid. So, and guess what? Humans will be right back because Earth needs us. Earth needs us to witness her beauty.